there are many ways that adult action figure collectors expand their collection. And one of the things that's unique to adults is army building. Sure, kids will buy army characters, but the idea of buying multiples of the same character tends to be more of an adult thing. Parents tend to say, well, we want to get you a bunch of original characters if we're going to buy you a multi-pack, which is why a lot of the multi-packs from the 80s were different characters. You weren't exactly getting packs of just a whole bunch of stormtroopers. You could occasionally get something kind of close to this. There was a Kenner 3-pack that had Darth Vader and 2 snowtroopers, but that was pretty much the closest you got in the vintage era, or the retro era, the original era, whatever we're going to call it these days, of getting army builders. Today, it's more you have to just buy a lot of the same character, and this can get expensive. But it's very rewarding, because in properties like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, even Marvel movies to an extent, have a lot of generic soldiers, and it's really cool having a whole army. Because the characters in Star Wars are so generic, we've gotten quite a lot of pairings and a lot of sort of army-building packs that could range from things like a Stormtrooper packed with a TIE pilot to 3 different versions of a clone trooper. So, yeah, we have gotten lots of multi-packs of army builders in the modern line, the most recent being this HasLab item, or HasbroPulse item, which is technically kind of a remake of a previous online Stormtrooper 4-pack that was offered a few years back. So, yeah, Stormtroopers, or rather army builders in general, tend to do very well online, because online shopping is more aimed at the adult collector. With kids, well, every time these items have come out, and if they've gone to retail, it hasn't exactly performed stellar, shall we say. So it's cool that every couple of years we tend to get these army packs from Hasbro with the most updated sculpt of characters like a Stormtrooper. And yeah, like $40 for the pack, that's a pretty good deal considering you're paying like $13, $14 for a single release with sometimes less accessories. So yeah, I'm all for army packs. I wish they did better at retail, but they don't. Every time there's an attempt to sell army builders, they just don't work. Usually, in order to sell a trooper at retail, it has to either be a single pack or a single deluxe figure. Doing 2 of the exact same figure, parents tend to look at that and go, Alright, well, their second pack, meaning Hasbro's second Army Builder pack, has just shipped, which is a Rebel Trooper pack, or Rebel Fleet Trooper, Alderaan Troopers, however you want to call it. This pack is in particular pretty special because we never had this trooper in the vintage line in the 1980s. It was kind of one of those missing characters that we all wish we had as a kid, and it was another one of those characters that was ideal for army building because there were a lot of them seen on screen in both the opening and the closing scenes of the movie. In fact, it's kind of interesting how they bookend the movie. Now, much like the Stormtrooper, the Rebel Fleet Trooper that's in this 4-pack is it's not quite a re-release of the figure from the single card. The single carded figure, which has come out twice now in both the standard and what I call the Kodak Photo Real repaint, which has come out in part of a playset this year with the Tanaviv hallway. The figure has a lot of accessories. He's got guns, he's got helmets, he's actually got 2 different helmets, or rather a hat and a helmet, and a clip-on ammo clip. A clip-on ammo clip, that sounded redundant, as well as a scanner device, which the trooper used when the Falcon was approaching the Yavin base in that, he was on that big tower, and he pointed it up at the Falcon, maybe to clock its speed or something. So yeah, this figure came chock full of accessories, and it was pretty darn good. It got re-released, like I said, with the Tanaviv hallway playset on a Rogue One card, and of course this figure was a sort of a recreation or an update of previous Rebel Trooper figures, which are also updates of other previous Rebel Trooper figures, which are updates of previous Rebel Trooper figures. It's amazing how, since we never had this figure in the 80s as kids, how many we've gotten since the modern line has started. Now, the first figure that came out in Power of the Force 2 was during that whole sort of hulked up phase, when all the figures were super bulky, and you could tell that the new figures are a major improvement over the original Power of the Force 2. Alright, so back to this 4-pack. This 4-pack's a lot different from the Stormtrooper pack, because we're not just getting 4 Stormtroopers, one having a pauldron to show rank, but we're actually getting 4 unique characters with brand new sculpted heads. And it makes it very different from previous Rebel Trooper packs in different lines, like the Micro Machines, or even the old model kits that had painted figures, or figures you could paint. they usually tended to always come with just generic troopers, and maybe occasionally you would get the captain thrown in, which is what we're getting in this pack as well, which is actually quite a very clever repaint, since it's the same figure, just done in tan. But the only new tooling that any of these figures have are their heads, and each one gets a unique head. So what's so great about this pack, as well as what's so frustrating? Well, it kind of all comes down to the heads. So one of the troopers, the first one, I guess the Caucasian trooper that's not in the captain's outfit, the one that's in the trooper's outfit with the blue shirt, well, while this character has been mistakenly called Captain Antilles, who is the captain in the tan, this is not Captain Antilles. This decipher didn't always quite get things right. And the same character has also just been called generically Rebel Lieutenant in card games as well. But of course, this character, being, Star Wars, does of course have a real name, Pello Scrambus. And this is the very first character that we see in Star Wars, the very first human. And in fact, one of my buddies in high school, Evan, assumed the movie was going to be about this guy and was so disappointed. He said when he saw it as a kid, he thought this was going to be the star of the movie because he got all these close-ups in the first few moments of the opening shot. And then it basically pulls away from this guy, and I don't even know if we see him get shot down. This was the same friend that thought the trash compactor monster was called a Legomi because when it grabs Luke and Han says, "What happened?" and Luke says, "I don't know, it just Legomi and disappeared." So yeah, he always thought he called this thing the Legomi, and likewise, he always had this thing that that Polo there was, since he was the first human seen in the first Star Wars movie from '77, that he was going to go on to be the star of the movie. Now, this character is actually named after a real soldier, which is pretty cool. Who served. So hey, it's really great when expanded universe can get stuff like that. And of course, the actor who plays him has not just done bit parts. I mean, he's been part of Hollywood, gosh, for half a century at this point, even appearing on the Scarlet Pimpernel show and all sorts of cool roles. So it's great to sort of fill the Rebel Trooper helmet, if you will, with an actual, real character who was in the movie. Not just a generic soldier, but one that's specific. In fact, we haven't had a specific, brand new Star Wars character from the original trilogy, I want to say, since this Cantina alien, Mosep Bineed, who was like 10 plus years ago. This was actually not a character from the Cantina. He was walking around Mos Eisley. He was one of the few masked characters that was developed during principal photography, as opposed to in the Cantina, most of the characters were post-done. This character also appeared in the Marvel Comics as Jabba confronting Han there, and he shipped as part of the Black Series 3 3/4 line, when that sort of interim in the vintage line. Now, doing generic soldiers has been part of Star Wars since day one, and most of them are. But occasionally we do get named characters. Usually they're more, maybe not the stars of the movie, but, Captain Piet, Admiral Piet has quite a lot of screen time. But other generic troopers and officers have just been done as, Imperial Officer blank, not a specific character. And this was actually one of the things Disney was looking at doing when it took over the brand, was no longer doing specific troopers. Even if we recognize that trooper and he's just called an Imperial officer, we all kind of recognize who that is. That's the guy who says, "You rebel scum." So it is cool to get specific characters, but the last time we got a specific Imperial officer, or any officer, for Rebels, was 2009 with Captain Nita. Granted, Captain Nita has a line of dialogue and gets choked by Darth Vader. He's definitely a D-list character. Well, we did have that Tarkin update in the Vintage Collection, but this was not an original character. We'd already had Tarkin in Power of the Force 2. So that's why I look at Captain Nita as the last time we got a actual named generic officer. So while not all of the soldiers are named on the box, we are getting that specific Officer Polo, and Captain Antilles, who is the other specific character, and we've had a few Captain Antilles actually released in the line, which is pretty crazy. If you don't know who Captain Antilles is, in the opening scene of Star Wars on Leia's Corvette, the Tanaviv, he's the captain. He's the captain of the ship, and he's the one being interrogated by Darth Vader. Now, Captain Antilles should not be confused with Wedge Antilles. They are two totally separate characters, unrelated. Just think of Antilles as kind of like the Star Wars version of Jones or Smith. Lots of characters have the same last name in the world. What can I say? Not everyone's lucky to be Neitlich and know that you're instantly related to me if that's your last name. All right, moving on. So yes, Captain Antilles, the guy who's interrogated by Vader's looking for the Death Star plans, and he picks him up and chokes him and actually physically does this as opposed to doing the Force, which probably would have confused people since the Force hadn't been explained yet at this point. By the way, check out that tank in the background with the Alderaan symbol, which is like never used. That's the symbol for the House of Alderaan. So Captain Antilles also appears in Rogue One, briefly handing CGI Leia the Death Star plans, and he has had a toy before in his blockade runner Tantive outfit. And this is actually sort of like mid-choke because the figure is designed so that Vader can actually grab his neck, which is really cool. And it's neat now to have this other Captain Antilles figure. Even though he's a repaint, he gets a brand new head in this 4-pack. And instead of this figure, which was on choke pose, the new one is kind of just command pose. Now, Camden Antilles did appear in the prequels, and we've gotten a prequel figure of him. Granted, he's dressed different, and honestly, the face is a lot different, but everything seems to say that it's the same character. It's just earlier in time. Hey, he is reporting to Bail Organa, and he does own the ship. So those are the really cool, awesome things about this pack, but there's also some agony with the ecstasy, and that's those two middle generic characters there. We have an Asian guy and a black guy. So here's the thing. There's no Asians and no black guys on the Tantive. It's all white guys. It's all Caucasian guys. I'm all for ethnic diversity. But in this case, there is no diversity. They're all white. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. It's the way it was filmed. So releasing a black guy and an Asian guy, while it's cool to have different ethnicities, I would have much preferred two more specific troopers who were actually in the movie. These guys are kind of expanded universe, and I only collect original trilogy, so I basically got a 4-pack with only 2 characters that I'm interested in. Now, hopefully this is not the end of the army building packs that Hasbro does, because this has been a great way now to get out original characters, now that it's not just, 4 Stormtroopers. I would love to see Hasbro do this for the Endor Troopers, especially because the Endor Troopers have more variety than any other generic trooper. Fleet Troopers all wear the same outfit. Hoth Troopers have like 1 or 2, 3 different outfits. Endor Troopers have like 7 different outfits, and we've gotten quite a few of them in the line over the years. Usually they tend to even be head swap variants, where every time an Endor Trooper is released, we actually get 2 at the same time, usually, again, in different ethnicities. So we've gotten trench coat, we've gotten jacket versions, we've gotten guys with bandoliers across. So yeah, you can see there's lots of different versions. And that guy to the left of Han there, the sort of guy with the like big pudgy nose and looks like a white shirt underneath. So that is the trooper that the vintage or retro original Kenner 1980s Commando figure, I think it was called Rebel Commando was the name of the figure. It was supposed to like Endor Trooper. And it was fun to army build with this guy if, that was your thing. Again, most kids don't army build just simply because parents are the gateway to getting toys and aren't going to buy a kid the same figure over and over again, which is why as adults we do this. It's empowering because we now can do this. And the figure, it's one of the beloved vintage figures that we are, Rebel Commando. And we have had a vintage sort of version of this. The only modern one in this outfit has been from Power of the Force 2. So we haven't gotten this actual Endor outfit for like 30 years. All of the other Endor troopers since this one have been different outfits. The trench coats, the jackets, that kind of thing. I'd really love to see an update of the Power of the Force 2 one because it was an update of the original 80s figure, the Rebel Commando. So this would be great for an army builder pack. And if Hasbro's now tooling up unique heads or, unique parts, man, that is awesome. And I really hope we continue to get these 4-packs. And I kind of hope they stick more to actual characters in the movie. Because that's what we want. We want the specific troopers. While we've gotten a vintage series modern version, this isn't the right outfit. So they sort of put a trench coat Endor Commando on the vintage card. But that's not quite the right version of the trooper. The one that's in a full body jumpsuit with the backpack. So while we have another pack already revealed by Hasbro, which is going to be Shore Troopers in the different sort of commander and trooper color schemes from the Scarif battle during Rogue One, hopefully this is not the last. And again, now that Hasbro has shown they're willing to tool original heads, it is so nice to get an original character we've never had. And an update of Captain Antilles, fantastic too. As for the other 2 that are thrown in there for ethnic diversity, I kind of do wish they, did actual characters from the movie. I get that it's just would be 4 white guys in helmets, but that's what was actually in the movie, and I'm all for source material. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any questions. What do you think of the, ethnic diversity of the Rebel troopers? Is it cool to have different ethnicities, or would you rather have characters that actually reflected the content? Both have good and bad sort of analysis, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Leave a comment. I always check back and try to re-comment as much as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.